welcome to episode 7 of the Snowball Effect. I'm here with the legend Chase Dimond. Chase, welcome to the show.
Hey, dude, thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great. This is actually the first episode that we've done that's not in person. All the ones that we filmed have not only been in person, but my roommate has a studio in our house, which is a hot tub. So we've been sitting on the hot tub with our feet in the water and dripping sweat. So this is going to be the first comfortable podcast where people aren't aggressively like wiping sweat off their face. So that's nice.
Dude, I actually bought a hot tub for my backyard probably about a month or two ago, and I've been joking about wanting to do like a hot tub series. So I don't know you actually had one. That's sick.
Yeah, we do it. Yeah, my roommate was in a Netflix show, and he's makes his own podcast called Tub Talks. It's a separate thing, but I just use the studio that he created. Well, cool, man. Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on here. I know we've talked a lot, and you've told me a lot about what you do, but I don't think we've ever really talked about how you got started in business. So I'm super curious to learn, for the listeners, but genuinely me and you, because we haven't had this convo yet. Like, how did you get started in business? Like, what is your story?
Yeah, there's two kind of things that stand out. So at the age of 13, I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and I basically spent an entire year being sick. And Crohn's disease essentially is inflammation of your digestive tract. There's about
Okay.
1 to 1.5 million people in the US that have Crohn's or colitis, which is formed under IBD, which is inflammatory bowel disease. So I was sick for an entire year, solely through a lack of awareness and lack of understanding of like what this actually was. So after being sick for a year and finally getting the correct diagnosis, after getting like literally like a dozen mixed diagnoses and treatments, I took it upon myself as a 14-year-old to learn guerrilla marketing. So I was taking ads out in the paper. I was hosting kind of walks and restaurant fundraisers. I was calling friends. I was messaging them on AIM. I was sending emails. I was doing all these types of things I had to figure out to raise awareness and fundraising. And at 16, after doing this for 2 years, I ended up joining like the top board of this charity called the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation as like their youngest board member. So I served like a 6-year board term kind of there. And that's how I kind of found and fell in love with marketing. And then fast forward to college, I went to a school that I couldn't afford to go to, and my parents couldn't afford to send me there. So I had to help pay for my tuition. So on top of playing college soccer, on top of doing a fraternity, on top of doing business clubs, I was working like 6, 8, 10 different jobs and internships. And I kind of refound and reignited my love of marketing and kind of learned more about driving sales and revenue and engagement. So those are kind of the two ways I got started.
Wow, super cool, super cool. So that disease that you were diagnosed with, is that like still actively affecting you, or?
Yeah, it's something I'll have for the rest of my life. There's no cure for it. There are treatments to try to put like essentially kind of like a band-aid on it of sorts, but
Okay.
it's something that I'll have for the rest of my life. I've been pretty lucky that it hasn't been a huge influence impact in my life, but other people, unfortunately, have been pretty sick from this thing, and it has affected theirs. So definitely feel lucky, and that's why I've been so mission driven in terms of wanting to, raise awareness and raise funding for this disease. So hopefully, make it suck for people less that have it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm sure that's like that's such a deep why. Like, I'm sure that's why we're so motivated at that young age, and that's like really cool that that's how you got into marketing. Okay, so now I know you have like an absolute beast of an email agency. You have some info products. You're doing a lot. So how did you transition from like raising awareness on that disease, joining the board, and then like now to this email empire that you've created?
Yeah, so after college, I built a platform that connected students on college campuses with others in their classroom to
Sounds
make
like
learning
Facebook.
more collaborative. So yeah, it's essentially like a social network for students at the same college. So we launched at the 50 largest college campuses based on enrollment size, like Arizona State, Penn State, Florida State, those types of school. And we connected people that did or didn't know each other to share study guides, collaborate kind of on in-person study groups, even share previous exams and quizzes from past classes. So in my fraternity, we had like this test and this quiz and this kind of note bank, right? But I wanted to make a way for every single person, regardless of whether they were in a fraternity, sorority, club or not, to be able to have access to the same thing and really to build this. So email was really a huge channel for acquisition. We actually were grabbing emails from college directories and sending highly personalized emails. Hey, Noah, you attend this school, want to let you know about this, study bank we have. It's free to join. All you have to do is contribute your content. And we scaled this to hundreds of thousands of college students using it pretty quickly. So email not only was an acquisition channel, but it also was a retention channel. So Noah, say you and I were in business classes together, you upload your test. I would work on sending emails on the back end that says, hey Chase, just to let you know, Noah uploaded this test for your upcoming quiz or exam. So email was really at the core of that. From there, I built an email travel series, much like the Hustle, the Skim, and Morning Brew, that I scaled from 0 to 500,000 subscribers. And again, like we were aggregating data from Instagram, people that were posting with hashtag travel, people that followed Nat Geo, people that geotagged Bali. And a lot of times these people had their email in their bio or on a contact button. So we were emailing influencers and micro influencers and just everyday people to join this community. So email was again an acquisition channel, but also it was the entire business. We sent a daily, weekly email allowing people to explore the world and kind of discover the world straight from their inbox. So I just kept having, business after business where I was using email. And about 4.5 years ago, one of my buddies was like, dude, you should take these skills that you have with email and community building and come over to e-commerce. So I started really just freelancing. I started an agency, and then I started another agency. So the agency I run today, we're about 75 to 80 people. We offer 4 different services, and I run our retention team. So about 45 to 50 people on my team, which is predominantly email and more recently SMS. And we're working with over 100 clients that do anywhere from 7 to 9 figures a year in terms of annual revenue.
Wow, very cool. So just to go back, I'm just curious because I didn't even know about this. So that second business you were explaining where you had like the travel company and you were scraping from Instagram. So was that just like essentially a big newsletter for travel advice?
Yeah, exactly. So if you think about like the Morning Brew or the Hustle or the Skim, right? They're basically serving you education, technology, business tidbits, whatever it might be. So that way you can become smarter. For us, we basically did that same type of thing, but we curated what to do, where to stay, what to eat, what time of the year to go for LA, for New York, for international places, right? Places that were well known and places that were off the beaten path. And because we had built such a large community, we were crowdsourcing from thousands and thousands of tourists and locals from each destination, their favorite tips and tricks, and the places that had a lot of trends and a lot of people saying, hey, this one restaurant is the best. That would make our ultimate list. So we basically were creating like this really nice 3 to 5 minute read within your inbox, this travel guide. So that way, if you wanted to go to Bali, Indonesia, you would know like what the locals do, you know what the tourists do, you know where to stay, you know what to eat, you would have all those kind of things. So we basically took like the Lonely Planet kind of print guides of sorts and kind of modernized it and made it so that way anyone that wanted to travel could basically, it's almost like we built a Yelp for, or like a TripAdvisor for travel newsletter.
Super cool. So, I mean, a 500K newsletter list is no joke. That's like a pretty serious business you guys had. Did you end up exiting that before starting the email agency?
So I ended up starting with this guy and I ended up growing it. He ended up moving the whole team and everyone to Denver. And we had like this agreement that I'd have to go to Denver if I wanted to do it. But I had just bought a place out here in Orange County. So I ended up just leaving, got like a small payout and kind of just went on and built the next thing.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. So now you're pretty much exclusively working on this e-commerce focused email agency.
Yeah, the agency is like my main focus, and then you alluded to it earlier, but outside of that, I run a community of folks in e-commerce. I've got about 25,000 people on my weekly newsletter. I've got a
Right.
podcast to do some YouTube, Twitter, courses. So yeah, the agency is really like the main thing. I probably spend 80% of my time on that, and probably spend about 20% of my time on content and courses.
Cool. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So then my last question for you is the question I ask everybody. Since you're like so in the weeds of e-commerce and specifically email marketing, would you say like are there any trends right now that you notice are happening that people might not know about yet? Just anything that's very new or relevant in the e-commerce direct to consumer space that you feel like people that are listening should know about?
Yeah, this is specific to email and it's really early. I think so. If people are listening to this, they're going to be very much on the early kind of wave of it.
Okay.
It's this thing called AMP, and it's specifically for making emails, act much like websites. So AMP stands for Accelerated Mobile Pages. I think it's a technology from Google, and that's how all landing pages and websites are. Right? They're engaging, they're interactive. You can have this experience. So AMP is now, available in most cases for email. There's some limitations and there's some restrictions. That's why it's not more prevalent and kind of out there today as much. But the early wave of brands are going to start adopting this, and some already have. Where essentially you can leverage, surveys directly within your email that people can just stay in the email and respond to. You could have like what's called like expanding content or an accordion, where someone can click a button within an email and it drops down, a whole other thing. So think about like an FAQ, right? Maybe you have all the FAQ questions kind of stacked, and if someone clicks on, hey, what's your best selling product? It will then expand the content and show people, hey, this is our best product, right? So it's kind of just like a really clean way to leverage that type of thing. Another one is you literally could have like a product carousel, being able to rotate between different products within an email, much like you can on a website or landing page. There's
Wow.
other things, right? Like one click to buy, one click to check out within an email. So there's a lot more technology that is slowly being rolled out to email. email pretty much has been the same since its, infancy, right? 20, 30, 40 years ago, however long it's been. So this is probably one of the newest things that's coming to it. And it's going to be able to make, people convert hopefully quicker and better and transact directly from an email.
That's fascinating. I like thinking about it. It makes so much sense that that's, the direction email is moving. And it also is surprising that it's taken this long for that to be in emails. Like a responsive web page is such like a standard part of the internet right now. Like the simple things like you were explaining, like an accordion or a carousel, or being able to perform actions within the email that aren't replying to the email. I can't believe it's taken this long for it to like make it to email, but that makes a lot of sense that it is. So if someone who is doing email marketing or has their own e-commerce store wants to implement AMP, it's like AMP is what it's called, right?
Yeah, and there's some like websites and some stuff on it right now. There are some barriers to entry, right? Like there are certain things you have to do with your email platform to be able to become, accepted. You have to get approved by Google and some of the other inboxes. Like there
Okay.
are some technical barriers, and I think that's part of why it's being slower to roll out. I think, well, one, most people have never heard of it, don't know about it. So that's the biggest issue. And then two, because there are some technical issues, I think that's the other piece of it. So I think as more and more people do AMP and more developers come into AMP and more tools become available for AMP, in a few years when we look back at this conversation, like everyone's going to be leveraging AMP, right? And if you're not leveraging AMP, then you're behind. But I think really right now, at the end of 2021 and going into 2022, if you can figure out and leverage AMP, then you're going to be on the very early side of it.
Yeah, and it also sounds like a great opportunity to build like tools or SaaS products that make it easier, because as you're explaining, it's a brand new field. It's something that there's clearly a need for, and there's big barriers to entry. So the way my brain thinks about it is like, oh, someone should probably build like a web app or something that makes this easier.
Yeah, and there's a couple that do it, but again, it's just a marketing thing, right? So if someone is good at marketing, has an audience, there's a massive opportunity, I think, on the agency side, right, to build an agency or a freelance service that builds AMP emails for clients.
Yeah.
And to your point, right, building plugins or SaaS businesses or tools or softwares that really make this easy, right? And make, just like sending an email through Klaviyo is easy, being able to make creating an AMP email really easy. So there are some out there. I think it just comes down to them being better at marketing and them kind of building the product better. But there's definitely an opportunity here.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Cool. Well, wow. I had no idea about that, but that like gets me excited, like seeing that kind of innovation happening in the like email and e-commerce world. Cool. Well, Chase, thank you so much for coming on. This was like a really great conversation. It was super cool for me to actually learn about you, because we never even got to have this conversation yet. I also usually give Social Snowball merch I'm wearing it right now, KROC, to everyone who comes on. But since we're not doing it in person, I'll just mail it to you. So just give me your address after this, and I'll send you. We have definitely the coolest tech merch in the game. So
yeah, that's clean.
We got
that, and then your new sign in the back is sick too.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're both matching with neon signs right now.
Well, dude, appreciate you. I'm definitely sending you my address. I want a t-shirt.
Awesome, I got you. All right, thanks so much, Chase.
All right, man. Cheers.